Recently, the Firearm Blog was invited out to the Timney Triggers facility to see how they make triggers for AR-15s, Remington 700s, and other firearms. As you can see here, there's not a whole lot of people, but there's a ton of really expensive machines. Believe it or not, only 4 people run each one of those machines, producing triggers around the clock. Now, Timney makes a pretty solid spread of triggers for just about every gun out there, but they did bring out their AR triggers to show us, and they're pretty darn good.
2 human labor hours. This will run about 23 hours and then it's ready to go. But then you have all these parts that I haven't had to touch. I haven't had the opportunity to make any mistakes. All I'm doing is depending on the machines.
So it's not particularly fast, but it's extremely precise and efficient. You're not wasting much of anything.
Yeah, there's little to no waste on these, and the way it works on an EDM machine is your wire that's running through there. We feed electricity through there, and the reason it's slower is it's not technically burning it. What it's doing is it's using electricity to dissolve the metal. So it's actually dissolving it in that order. So it takes a little bit of time. The composition of the steel has a lot to do with that too. A2 versus S7 or softer steel. But yeah, I mean, there's countless things that these things can do, and the precision is, it's top of the line.
So you can see here that the hammers are being cut out of the steel with the wire EDM machine. I'd never seen one prior to this, and was pretty fascinated with the process. I'm not exactly certain how it works, but I do know that the parts they were pulling out of the machines were just absolutely perfect. You couldn't ask for a better finish. And I believe when they say they're ready to go right out of the machine.
It's got one ready to go. It's got one that we call half done, and then there's suction cups over here, which will pick up the finished one, put the half done one in the same vise, and then go pick up that one that's half done in there, and then put a new block in there. So
now Calvin was explaining how they use robots to turn that bar stock into a partially machined housing and then a complete housing. These in particular are the Calvin Elite Remington 700 triggers, and you'll see the CE product number when you pick one of these up. That does stand for Calvin Elite. He does design all of these, and is kind of a hat tip to him. The powers that be at Timney decided to name some triggers after him. Anyhow, you'll see the robot arm setting the partially machined trigger housing down onto the little tray there, and then it'll flip over and pick it up to set it back into the machine to finalize its process. Now, I really think it's neat that they've incorporated such modern technology and made the investment in things like the robot arms to speed up the machining process, produce a better product, and just more consistent results. That's really neat to see. But you'll notice that there is 2 pair of pinchers. The black pinchers are the ones that are going to pick up the raw bar stock, and you'll see that reaching down now. The silver pinchers handle the machined parts, and then there's 2 small blue suction cups that'll handle the finished part and drop it into a bin. All in all, really efficient. You can see here, these are straight out of the machine, no polishing. They look beautiful.
So now we're going to go in here and see how the parts are put together. And one thing I want you guys to remember, it's always blown my mind in 11 years. Every single trigger that leaves this place gets tested in the action by a human before it goes anywhere. All right, so there's people in here that are testing every single trigger before it comes to your door. So
everyone is tested in action.
Everyone. Right, Calvin?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not only that, these guys do this full time every day. So your trigger was probably tested by a guy 30 times. It was slam fired, the pull weight was tested over and over, the creep was checked over and over. And these guys have trigger figure, they feel creep and stuff that I can't feel creeping. So they're really, really good. Chances of you getting a bad trigger are very, 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 very slim. Chances are you installed it incorrectly. Am I allowed to say that?
No.
So while he may have been joking, incorrect installation is the #1 cause of malfunction with an aftermarket trigger, at least in my experience. Each Timney trigger is fitted into an action and tested individually for any creep issues, make sure that it's consistent and that it fits in the action without problem. So they are doing their due diligence to make sure that you're getting a good quality product. Now these guys, like they said, can feel things that I couldn't even feel. And I tried, but they're just far, far too trained. Each one of them does somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 to 180 triggers a day. And, I mean, I don't know about you, but that's a lot of trigger pulls, and that's a lot of diagnosing. It's pretty impressive. This right here is Calvin, the man who's responsible for just about every one of Timney Triggers' designs put out in the last several years. So what does Calvin have in store for us next? Glad you asked. It's going to be the Calvin Elite 1000 trigger, a 1.5 pound pull weight, and interchangeable trigger shoes.
Well, Timney's iconic brand been around since 1946, and the only reason you replace your triggers is to become more accurate with your rifle or with your shotgun or whatever. So if you've replaced a scope or you've replaced a stock or whatever, and you want to become the most accurate with that rifle, replacing a trigger with a Timney trigger, who you've seen in today on the factory tour, that's a dead nut precise piece of equipment, will help you become a better shooter. And accurate guns are fun. Shooting accurately is fun. So that's what we do here at Timney. We work every day to make the most accurate part we can, so that when you go to the field or to the range, that you become the most accurate as possible with your firearm.
Well, there you have it, guys. If you enjoyed this format, let me know down in the comments. It was kind of an experimental thing, and if you want to see more of it, we'll see what we can do. If you're looking for a rifle to put these triggers in, check out our sponsor, Proxibid. They've got some great deals and some great rifles, and they could probably use a Timney trigger. Anyhow, until next week, I'll see y'all later.